The heads of the American and Israeli intelligence agencies have met in Cairo for talks brokered by Egyptian and Qatari officials. The discussions are aimed at reaching a deal to end the war on Gaza, but the meeting has ended without a clear breakthrough. Israeli media is reporting that serious disagreements remain. We're going to bring in Hassan Barari. He's Professor of International Affairs at Qatar University. He's also a researcher at the Center for Strategic Studies at the University of Jordan. He's joining us here in Doha. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you about those talks in a moment, but first of all, I want to talk to you about the drone strike that hit our Al Jazeera journalists, our correspondents, and the cameraman. Now, we know that there's a large number of journalists, Palestinian journalists particularly, who have been targeted in Israel's war on Gaza. Why do you think it appears, this is the fifth time that Al Jazeera journalists have been targeted, why do you think Al Jazeera is being singled out?
I think they're trying to target Al Jazeera correspondents simply because they want to silence them. They're very annoyed by the Al Jazeera coverage. They know that Al Jazeera enjoys a wide world kind of audience, and they want it just to make sure that, Al Jazeera probably, they want them to behave. And this is one thing. Secondly, they want to kill the eyewitness, because what Al Jazeera is doing is documenting all the atrocities and the genocidal attacks against the Palestinians. And third, I think they want to put pressure on Qatar. And Qatar is mediating the whatever truce gonna take place in days to come or weeks to come. I don't know when. And they quite often the Israelis ask the Qatari to put a lot of pressures on Hamas to give in and to be flexible when it comes to the terms of the truce, and they want the term of the truce to be to the like of Netanyahu and serve his own interest, because he wanted to have a kind of victory internally. He want to tell the Israelis that my leadership has been good, has paid off, and he wants the Qatari to do and help him realize what he failed to realize in the battleground. And that's Al Jazeera is being targeted, all these cameramen and correspondents. I think this is a clear message to Qatar that Qatar should step in and do things that would be in line with Israeli interests.
As we were just mentioning, Qatar's playing a key role in the talks to try to find some sort of route map towards a ceasefire in Gaza. That brings us, of course, to the talks that are going on in Cairo at the moment. There had been some sense of a cautious optimism prior to these talks in Cairo, very cautious. But now we understand that at least this latest round has really ended in nothing, and the Israeli delegation, I understand, has gone back to Tel Aviv. Is the optimism still justified, do you think?
I think it is, but probably not soon. We're not going to see impact in probably 10 days or 2 weeks to come, simply because Netanyahu ordered his team go to Cairo just to listen, not even to engage in any discussion. He is not interested in the truce as being suggested by Egyptian, Qatari, and Americans, simply because he wanted the war to continue. He knows that if things work out for the truce, and then maybe there would be a kind of ceasefire for, 45 days, 2 months, because we heard different versions. This will probably change the dynamics within the Israeli society, and Netanyahu would be held accountable for the wrongdoing that is committed. Don't forget that only 16% of the Israelis think that he fit the bill of leadership, and the vast majority say, Netanyahu should step down or should be replaced after the war comes to an end. So he knows, once this comes to an end, he would be also put on trial because of other issues, mainly corruption. It's a kind of fig leaf for him to continue the war, simply because the war would give him the opportunity, would give him probably future chances to claim that he has led Israel into victory. And this would probably improve his image and mitigate the whatever bad image about him, about his management of the war. So the last thing that he wants to see is a ceasefire right now, because Israel failed to realize the twin objectives, destroying Hamas and release the hostages. And if this is going to be through the truce, the hostages things, Hamas is going to be continuing in Gaza, and this would be against his interests, then he cannot claim victory. And as we know, in the first truce, remember the first month of the war, it was seen even in Israel as a victory for Hamas. So his leadership is being at risk, and he wants the continuation of the war for some time. Another reason for that is that right-wing component of his government. I think this is a problem for him, because they threaten that if he agrees to a ceasefire, they will pull out, and this will bring down his government, and this will probably open the door for a new dynamic that will hurt Netanyahu personally.
I want to ask you about one of the other key players in these negotiations, Egypt, of course. Now, Egypt has said that it is growing concerned about the possibility that Palestinians are going to be forced to cross the border from Gaza into northern Sinai, and that would create a significant problem for them. There had been concerns that the peace agreement that exists between Egypt and Israel might suffer as a result of that if that happened. Egypt's come out and said, no, actually, the agreement is going to be still in place. But if Palestinians are forced to cross the border from Gaza into northern Sinai, that is going to, one would imagine, make things very difficult for Egypt to remain as a neutral player, if you like, in the negotiations. How do you think Egypt is going to have to respond if that happens?
I think Egypt right now is in limbo. On the one hand, they want the peace treaty with Israel to continue because they benefit from that. And here I'm talking about the government. They received a lot of economic aid from the Americans because of the Camp David agreements. But on the other hand, a lot of statements coming from senior Egyptian officials say that the migration of the Palestinians into Sinai would pose a threat to their national security, and they're willing to stand up to the Israelis. This is what we understand. But lately also they deployed some tanks on the northern border of Sinai, in the southern border of Sinai, and because they want to prevent any probably forced migration into their own land. I don't know how this is going to play out, because if Netanyahu pushed them to go and then the Egyptian interfered, like militarily speaking, especially, probably we're going to witness kind of Israeli-Egyptian clash, and this would be an escalation. I think the Americans will not tolerate that, and they probably will put a lot of pressures on Netanyahu. But we know that Netanyahu is in defiance, so he might do anything. He's like really a risky man. He's a dangerous man. He might probably cause an escalation with Egypt, and this would be I think this will be a game changer for the whole conflict.
Hassan Barari, we really appreciate you giving us the benefit of your analysis on that. Thank you so much indeed.